Good evening. My name is Alexander. I'm the head instructor of Iaijutsu here at the Tora Tsume School of Martial Arts. And I guess the first question is, why am I wearing my sword getup? Well, instead of my normal, what is that? Judo gi, right, for grappling. Well, if you watch my last video, you'll hear me mention something about my back feeling funny, right? That was a Thursday. Thursday, training was fine. Friday, going to work, I was fine. Saturday, Sunday, I was good. Woke up Monday morning for work, and it was hard to get out of bed, and my back has been increasingly worse. So sometime between that training and Monday, I did something to tweak my back, so now it feels funny. So no twisting and turning and slamming into the ground. But, like I said in that video, I don't believe in sitting down and resting when you're hurt or injured. I mean, you got to take it easy. But I believe in training through a little bit of pain. Plus, your body will sit you down if you can't handle it anyway. So I just believe in doing as much as I can. But I'm not going to be doing any Aiki in this video. I am taking this opportunity to get into the sword work. Now, in Iaijutsu, we save sword work for later on in the training. Right? So you learn how to use your body first, and then you learn how to respond to different common weapons. And then the sword comes as an extension of your Iaijutsu. Right? So you learn some lessons that apply to the Iaijutsu, but through the sword. Right? So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. Lesson number one. Lesson number one is how to grip the longsword. Right? So today we're going to be using a bokken and my cutter, or my shinken, to demonstrate a few things. I'm going to start off with the bokken, and we're going to do the Happo giri, or the 8 cutting patterns. And then we're going to move on to the Kata. And the Kata, the style we're doing today is called Toyama Ryu. Right? If you look up Toyama Ryu and you look up Tatsuburo Nakamura, you can find that. You'll be able to find it. Excuse me. That's a Gendai art, right? This one is, I want to say, either post or around World War II, so it's not from the Koryu. It's not some old school 400-year-old system. It's a more modern system. So we'll do the kata, and then I'll talk about some takeaways, at least some things that I take from the kata, the reason why I like to do it. Now, like I said, the Toyama Ryu is one of the systems we study here at the Tora Tsume, and we'll get into the other ones in later videos. But tonight, we're doing Toyama. So lesson number one, gripping the longsword. Okay, I'm not going to hold it like this, right? It's not a hammer, all right? I want to hold it like I'm shaking someone's hand. You see that? At a slight angle, right? If I were reaching in to shake someone's hand, I'm not going to reach in like this. I'm going to reach in just like this, and we're going to meet each other here, right? So when I'm gripping the sword, I'm going to grip it the same way, okay? Where my thumb meets my index finger, right, where that junction is going to be just running along the spine of the blade. I'm going to line that up with the spine of the blade, right? So, you can see even on the bokken, right, there's a cutout here, and this cutout is for a suba, or the sword guard, right? Now, the sword guard is not so somebody's sword hits your sword and hits the guard. It's to keep you from your hand sliding forward onto the blade. So just as a side note, right? So my index finger will touch that sword guard, touch that suba, and there's going to be about 1.5 inches space between the webbing of my hand and where that suba is going to be, okay? So that's where your hand's going to be placed. Now, as far as the grip goes, okay, the index finger and the thumb are going to be basically just lightly touching, right? They're just in there and out of the way, okay? That middle finger is going to be gripping ever so lightly, right? Not going to be firm, just going to be slightly gripping tighter. Now, your ring finger and your pinky finger are going to be doing most of the work, right? That's where that's what's going to be gripping the absolute strongest. As a matter of fact, when you're doing one-handed cuts, that's where the power and the snap comes from, off of that ring and pinky finger. all right? So, just like I'm saying, I'm shaking someone's hand, right? I'm going to treat the sword like I'm shaking someone's hand, okay? I want the sword to respect me, so I have to respect the sword, right? If I'm gripping like I'm shaking someone's hand like my hand is a dead fish, they're not going to respect me. They're just going to overpower me. And with the sword, the same thing is going to happen. I'm just going to lose the grip on the sword. It's going to go falling out of my hands if I grip like a dead fish. If I grip it too tightly, like I'm holding onto a hammer or swinging a baseball bat or something like that, I'm trying to grip too tightly. That's like walking up to somebody and squeezing their hand, right? Trying to establish dominance, okay? They're going to think, what do you have to prove? And then they're not going to respect you. So I want you to sit somewhere in the middle. Firm, right? Not hard, not soft, but firm and under control. And your support side hand, because this is my right hand, most swordsmen are right-handed, and you're going to learn with the right hand. My support side hand is going to do the exact same thing, right? Except my pinky finger is going to hang off the edge just a little bit, right? So where the end of the hilt meets, right? Where the end of the hilt is, I'm going to sit it right on that pinky finger, right? And then my other fingers are just going to grip right around there. Now, the sword is done with the right hand. The left hand is just along for the ride. That's just going to be as sort of a guide to make your cut more precise. All right? So I'm not really gripping real tight or gripping too firmly with my left hand. Okay? My right hand is doing all the work. My left hand is making my sword more precise. Before we move on to the Happo giri, before we move on to the cuts, let's go over some kamai, some postures. All right? So, sword right hand, leading right foot, initially. So middle guard, juran no kamai, right? Juran, middle. Lower guard, geran no kamai, right? High guard, joran no kamai. Right? So have you ever studied karate, joran-tsuki, joran-tsuki, gedan-tsuki, right? Easy. Above the head, so hasa no kamai, left side, hidari. Migi hasa no kamai, migi wake no kamai, hidari wake no kamai. Right? And simply put, lower guard kind of invites attacks over top, so you come up from underneath. Middle guard controls the center. High guard prepares for overhead cut, so shinchoku geri or kisageri, but it invites cuts into the midsection. Hustle no kamai invites cuts to the backside, in my opinion. Wake no kamai, same thing, except I'm cutting from underneath versus over top. So let's go to the different cuts. First cut we learn, right? From Juran no kamai, first cut we learn shinchoku geri, straight overhead cut. Right? When you do your straight overhead cut, I don't want to think about snatching the hilt forward and then chopping at the end. I want to cast it out like I'm casting a fishing line, right? So I'm up here and I'm pitching it out there, right? Once I pitch it out there, right, the sword takes care of everything else. I let gravity take over, right? And I want to stop the sword tip at about the level of the knee because I don't want to embed it into the ground, right? So up and down, cast. Nice and easy. Breathe out. Right? Nice and easy. Now, when I draw back with my sword, I don't want the tip of my sword to fall below the nape of my neck. Right? Some people like to shark fin it, which is fine, but I don't want the sword tip to fall below the nape of my neck. I don't want to be back scratching. Right? So I'm not doing that. I've seen styles that do that, but Toyama doesn't do that. Or at least we don't do that here. So shinchoku geri, not falling below the late nape of the neck. Cast out, let the arms take over, excuse me, let gravity take over. Nice and easy, all right? When you're changing your cuts, just a side note, when you're changing your cuts, your sword grip remains relatively the same, right? When the sword locks into this position, it is part of my arm, okay? This is my sword arm, right? It can shift a little bit. I can tighten my grip, loosen my grip, I can play with it, but I'm not going to change my grip around the sword, right? It'd be like taking your hand off and then shifting and putting it back on to do something different. We don't want to do that, right? So next cut. Cut diagonally, entering through the clavicle in this L and exiting at the hip, right? So kesage, diagonal cut. Okay? Same thing. Go to Joro no Kamae, cast out at a diagonal, right? Trace that line, exit the body. Now what I don't want to do, right, is overcommit and expose my shoulder. I don't want to do that. Don't want to overswing. I want to remain relatively square with my opponent, and I want to keep my sword in play. If I take it out of the game, then I'm exposed to my opponent's sword. So we'll shift to the other side and do kesageri on the opposite side. Right? Still casting out into the L. If you see me pause halfway or do something funny or wince, my back still hurts. So bear with me, please. Let the sword do the work. Just breathe. All right. So Shinchoku geri, straight overhead, kesageri, diagonal. Now, kiriage, reverse diagonal. Right. So I'm going to go to wake no kamae. Excuse me. Yes, I'm going to wake no kamae. Right? Again, I'm not changing my grip, not doing something weird with this hand. Now this, my guide hand can change. Right? My guide hand is the one that can relax, but my sword hand doesn't. So, wake no kamae, turn, cast up, right? Let the rest of the body do the work. Switching sides. Wake no kamae. See, the guide hand doesn't change, or excuse me, the guide hand changes, but the sword hand doesn't. Cast out in that position. Let the arms take care of the rest. Arms and body. All right. So 1, Shinchoku geri. 2, kesa. 3, kesa. 4, kiriage. 5, kiriage. 6, suye, horizontal cut. We'll start horse stance position, right? Roll my sword over, right? Cast out, draw through with the waist, with the hips. Boom. Right? This one is a great cut, powered by the body. Try not to leave it behind. Try not to get it there and then shift through all stiff, right? It's one unit. Other side, right? Here, shift with the body. Now that one doesn't feel good. So 1, boom. 2, boom, kesageri. 3, boom, kesageri. 4, boom, kiriage. 5, boom, kiriage. 6, boom, suye. 7, boom, suye. 8. Eighth cut has 2 positions, right? Ski, right? So straight down the middle, I'm going to keep my sword in a vertical position, right? Riding right up the breastbone into the throat. Ski, just puncture. When I'm I'm retreating, I'm going to pull my sword out. All right. Second position, I'm going to roll my hand over to pierce through the ribs. Right? So if my ribs are like this, okay, my ribs are going to sit like that, and I got like sinew and meat and stuff in there. I don't want my sword tip to get jammed in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my sword sideways and try and slip it through there. Get me? So, roll sword over. That one aims for the heart. So, number 1, Shinchoku Gate, straight overhead. Number 2 and 3, Keisage, overhead. Number 4 and 5, Kiriage, reverse diagonal. 6 to 7, horizontal. And 8, ski. Right. So, now I'm going to pull out the sword, and we're going to go through some of the kata. Now, Toyama Ryu has 8 kata. Basically. There's a few other sets, but basic level is 8 kata. And it addresses all the cardinal directions. Observe. Ippone. Jime. Nihome. Hajime. Yes. Yo. Sonbonne. Hajime. Yohome. Hajime. Go home, man. Hajime. Hajime. No. Tsume. All right, short and sweet, right? But the devil is in the details, okay? In my opinion, and I stress that, in my opinion, okay, what I take away from these kata, Alexander Lewis, right? Not from my teachers, get other things from my teachers, but in my own personal study, what I take away from these kata, in my opinion, okay, now that that disclaimer is out of the way. This set of 8 kata addresses 3 situations, okay? The first 4 addresses to the front, to the right, to the left, and to the rear, okay? Cardinal directions. But what are we doing in those directions? Seeing as how this is not an art designed for necessarily sword-on-sword combat, it wasn't birthed in feudal Japan. It's a distant cousin of that, but the techniques were really birthed in modern war, where people had guns and grenades. Okay, but men still carried sword. Officers still carried sword, right? So they still had to learn how to use it. That's not me. That's from reading the book. Right, that's from why this style exists. Okay, but what you don't get from the book is why these kata are set up and work the way they do, and this is what I'm drawing from it, keeping in mind the time it was made. Okay, because I'm dealing in a situation where there are guns and grenades and tanks and whatnot, or armor, whatever. And this is going to be my either close quarter tool, right? Like he's got an entrenching tool and I've got a sword, or he's got a bayonet affixed to a rifle and I got a sword, or he's just got the bayonet and I've got the sword, right? He's got a foot of steel and I've got 3, right? So keep staying in with that frame of mind, or stay with me, right? So the first 4 kata are catching an enemy that has not had a chance to draw their weapon, right? But they are in the process of drawing their weapon. And what makes me say that? What makes me say that is there is a minor cut before a major cut, okay? So the first one, my hand's already on my weapon, his hand's about to be on his weapon, I respond first, I see him first, I step in, right, and I ward, okay? Just trying to get them to respond to that attack, not necessarily cutting them. After they respond, then I cut them down. Simple as that, right? These are all killing techniques, right? I cut them down. So there's not going to be any kenjutsu, any back and forth sword fight, right? If I did catch them, then I'm aiming for the arm that was drawing the weapon, or I'm aiming for the weapon itself as it was coming up, if I'm going sword against whatever they have out, right? Ward them off, and then kill. Number 2, right? Number 2, same philosophy, but off to my right side, right? Get my sword out of the sheath, turn into them, ward, wide swipe, all right? Trying to catch something. After that, step in, and I cut them down. But there's a hidden detail in this one. After I cut across, my sword tip sweeps through the center as I come up, and then I cut down that same line, right? So what I'm saying is deflecting up, right, with the tip, and then cutting down, right? So they're still in the process of drawing their weapon or pulling their weapon out. I'm trying to make space, and then I'm stepping into them, deflecting before I kill. Number 3, same principle, but off to the left side, number 3 has a bit of a dodge, right? So maybe they've drawn their weapon. Maybe they're making a strike at me, and I'm leaning out. But what I'm doing with this is disguising my draw. So I disguise my draw, and then I turn into them, right? And that's where they have a response, okay? Boom, right? They responded to that, right? They deflected that, but they're still going. Why? How do I know that? Because now I'm throwing my first block. My first legitimate, oh God, he's trying to hit me, right? So he may be pierced, may not be pierced, right? But I know they're coming forward because I'm taking a step back. You know, so now, as I'm thinking about it, as I'm learning right now, as I'm on tape, in real time, before they draw their weapon, as they draw their weapon has already been drawn, right? Now my next one, I think my next one, this 4th one is simply an assassination, right? There's no block to it. I see I'm passing my opponent on their right side, my right side, or, you know, sword arm side. I'm drawing, cutting them across the back, right? Cutting them across the back, and then cutting them down, right? So they don't even have a chance to draw a weapon, because I'm behind them. Dishonorable? Sure, but it's war, so survive, do what you have to. Now, number 5, number 6, and number 7, okay? That is the first, or those are the first ones where I'm dealing with multiple opponents, right? So number 5 simply tells me I'm stepping in and I'm cutting through multiple opponents, right? Number 6 tells me I stepped into the middle of an ambush, right? Like I did number 4, like I just turned and cut, right? My response to that is to block that, right? That skates off, then I kill, but I still have to worry about his friend, right? Still have to worry about his friend, turn and cut the friend, right? So kind of like I'm walking up to somebody, that's what I have my eyes fixed on, and the person that passed me is the one I'm not supposed to be paying attention to. But they draw to cut first. They move first, right? But I anticipate that, right? Cutting it down and still step to the person that was assuming that his friend was going to cut me down, right? So he's slightly behind the power curve, thinking that his friend was about to cut me down, and that didn't work. So he's going, oh crap, now I got to draw, but it's too late because my sword's already out, right? Number 7, same sort of thing, except I'm attacking a V, right? Person here, one straight down the middle, right? Focused on the one on the middle, right? So maybe kind of like 2 guards and the principal and the one that they're protecting, right? So, right, disarm, not a killing blow necessarily, right? So cutting his sword arm, right? Cutting across to that guy, right? He's cut down. Those 2 dudes are no more, and then my unarmed guy. Just kill him, right? Make sure he's dead, right? This is the only one in the set that has an intimidation technique, where I'm drawing and letting them know who's boss. Now, number 8. Right, so, I said 3 situations. First one, dealing with a single opponent, right? Second one, multiple opponents. Third one, number 8, is cutting Godon, right? Or test cutting with the sword. So, there was a time when they would test swords on cadavers. Now we just kind of use rolled up goza and stack them one on top of another. But testing to see how powerful your sword is, right? Stacked up, boom. That's all you're doing. But you're really learning how to do your shinchoku giri and drop your weight into the cut. Right? So maybe not as much of a combat form as it is just a testing form. So that's what I think those kata be. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the change of pace. Learning something a little bit different, but still in the same vein. Right? A lot of the Aiki techniques come from sword work, where they work in conjunction with one another. Sword, when swords lock up, that turns into grappling, right? So we're kind of winding it back a little bit, or doing it in reverse, you get me? So some of the things that I take away from the sword that are in Aiki, or in all martial arts really, but what the sword really gives to me, or adds to the training, is the focus, right? Sense of precision. When you start to really dig into what the kata has to teach you, there's not many moves to it. I mean, you see the first kata is a few steps, 2 cuts, and then putting the sword back, right? But once you start to do tameshigiri, once you start actually trying to cut with something, you see there's a lot of little things to nitpick. Where was your support hand when you're one hand in the cut? Are you too close to the goza? Are you too far away from the goza? I don't know if I said it. Goza is a rolled up straw mat that's soaked in water for 24 hours. It's an analog for like a net, right? So, you test your angle. Is your angle too steep? Is it too flat? Right? There's a lot of things to nitpick, and it just has you focus more and more and more. And if you were to Google tameshigiri or go on YouTube and look up tameshigiri, you can see all the different methods and ways of cutting, right? Or excuse me, all the different patterns, right? So if you looked up those patterns, you would see there's some that are extremely basic, right? Which, absolutely, those are the ones that really make the killers, right? The basics are where it's at, right? The Happo giri is the basic cuts. You do all those on a goza, right? But then there are the cuts to elevate the skill, right? So, cool Kill Bill type stuff. I'm gonna cut the goza and then, cut it low and then cut it before the whole thing starts to fall. Or cut it 2 or 3 times before it starts to come apart. You'll find those videos, right? So, to be able to do that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of training, takes a lot of control. Your skill has to be, high in order to do that. And getting to that point, the journey of getting to that point is really the gem that adds to the rest of your martial arts, right? Because you can take those lessons and then you can apply them to a single lock in Aiki, or a single throw, when you're doing the judo throws, or a certain sequence in grappling, right? So you just work it again and again and again and again and again and again, and you can learn those lessons with the sword. So, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. If you decide to pick up a sword and attempt some of these things, I would say do it with a trained professional. Go find a teacher. If you want to, purchase a bow kit and then attempt it, or do it with your hands or something like that, and that'd be fine. But if you're gonna lay your hands on live steel, I would suggest being there with a trained professional. And if you're not gonna do that, because I was that kid, right? That just wanted to go off and do my own thing. If you are going to do that, be smart about it. First aid, right? Know your first aid. Don't do it by yourself. Have somebody there with you. Because, I mean, I've seen even experts cut themselves by accident, right? Not even their own fault. You know, somebody else do something stupid and they go to move to keep them from getting cut and stab themselves, right? Lose control of the blade, cut something important, end up in the hospital, right? And if they weren't there to drive themselves, they could have bled out there. So that's extremely important. Make sure your first aid is on point. I may have to do videos on first aid. Yeah, I think I'll do some videos on first aid. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble, so you know that's time for me to wrap up. Good training, and I'll see you later. Enjoy. Peace.